What is the point of Syril Karn? Is he really just a useless character, or is there something more to it? Probably one of the biggest criticism the Andor show faces has to do with the character of Syril, and it's easy to see why people might find him a bit of a useless character. Besides the beginning of the show, Cyril's character doesn't really do anything, at least not physically. Following his encounter with Cassian that left him haunted and out of a job, the rest of the season features Syril passively contemplating. There's not a lot of action or things to do for the character, especially when you compare Syril to other characters such as Luthen, Dedra, or even minor characters like Patergaz. But even so, I think calling Syril a useless character or the most boring part of Andor really misses the point. Cyril's character arc isn't expressed through his physical journey like Cassian's, but it takes a far more subtle and sinister approach. Now, I will agree that when it comes to pacing, Cyril's moments do slow it down. But when you decide to take a moment and peer behind the psychological curtain of Cyril's mind and beyond the Cyril he eats every morning, you'll start to realize that Cyril represents the seduction of the Empire. A central focus of the show is to depict the everyday people of Star Wars, and more often than not, we're immediately drawn to or can easily recognize the Empire's negative effects on the average people. We see the Empire's colonization of Aldhani and its tightening grip over Ferrix, all of which are slowly choking the local people. Here is where Cyril comes into play. Cyril, like the village elder and Brasso, represents the average person, but on the other side of the spectrum. Unlike the people of Aldhani or Ferrix, Cyril is depicted as a character in line with the Empire. By all accounts, the character is a child in a man's body. There is a reason why Cyril eats the same brand of cereal every morning, has what appears to be clone troopers or stormtrooper figurines in his room, and is constantly berated by his mother. What the show is trying to tell us is that Cyril is a person who is lost. He lacks a sense of direction. Ever since the disaster on Ferrix, which cost him his job, he has found himself floating and unsure about what to do next, which ends up being whatever his mother wants. But this lack of direction or sense of loss is actually a very common issue that many people face on a daily basis, and so Cyril's predicament isn't really a special one. But where other characters interpret their struggles with the Empire as a need to rise up and rebel, Cyril actually heads into the other direction. Since the beginning of the show, we've been told that Cyril is essentially a fanboy of the Empire, most noticeably from his choice of clothing, preferring to stick with the high-collared style of the Empire. And this fascination with all things Imperial started even when Cyril was still part of the Preox Morlana.
Have you modified your uniform?
Perhaps slightly. Pockets piping and some light tailoring.
What this uptight goody two-shoes personality screams is that Cyril is trying to emulate what he admires, that being the Empire. You get the sense that there is an inner child within Cyril that is obsessed with looking and feeling the part, the need to dress up and play soldier. However, it's not until the incident on Ferrix where he starts to realize that he is in way over his head.
Son, we need to get out of here!
Following the events on Ferrix, Cyril loses his job. The Empire, the very thing he admires, basically sends him packing. But Cyril's interpretation of these events doesn't place blame on the Empire, but places blame on Cassian. And over the course of the season, we see his lack of direction descend into a sickly obsession with Cassian, an obsession that leads him to cross paths with Dedra. From there, we begin to get a sense of a character change within Cyril. He gets a haircut and now tries even harder to fit the model of the Empire. Cyril's obsession with Dedra is partially a manifestation of his obsession with the Empire and partially an obsession with catching Cassian. He then begins to stalk Dedra, trying to get into her good graces to join the hunt for Cassian. And underlying their interaction, you do get a sense that Cyril's obsession with Dedra is a rather morbid one. Possibly even a warped sexual desire for her that is merged with his fascination for the Empire.
Just being in your presence, I've realized that life was worth living. I realized that if nothing else, there was justice and beauty in the galaxy, and if it just kept going.
The stalkerish behavior of Cyril stems from his character's desire to pursue what he believes is justice and order, and so for characters such as Cyril, the Empire as an institution can be a rather seductive idea. Cyril specifically wants to be a part of the Empire because he believes he understands what the Imperial institution stands for, ideals which he believes are close to his own. And so, in the case of Dedra, who is literally the female embodiment of the Empire, Syril begins to fantasize about her despite multiple rejections.
Forget this happened. I could have you arrested, you're aware of that. Come near me again, you pursue any of this, and I swear I'll have you in a cage on the Outer Rim.
The decision to create Syril as a character was done with the purpose to demonstrate the duality of the Empire. That yes, on one hand it is an oppressive machine prone to violence in order to maintain its control over the galaxy, but on the other hand, the Empire is equally as capable of maintaining its control via other means, using softer methods and propaganda to attract people like Syril to its cause. And so, the creation of Cyril's character and the direction it is headed towards is a very nuanced and mature take on the impact of the Empire. While it's easy to paint the Empire as a military machine capable of only destruction and violence, it's much harder to depict the Empire as alluring and seductive, especially to people like Syril. If at all, it actually adds a whole other dimension to the complexity and intricacies of evil in Star Wars. The nuanced depiction of the Empire's evil is actually a mirror for the dark side of the Force. The dark side, similar to the Empire we see in Andor, is equally as seductive and manipulative, capable of drawing in individuals who are struggling through life. And so while for Force users it's the pull of the dark side, for the average non-Force user it's the attractive pull of the Empire. So really, Cyril's character isn't pointless, it just may seem that way because he doesn't move much physically or interact with other characters. Instead, the development of Cyril's character is a deeply psychological one, a manifestation of how people can change when they interact with the Empire, and how as a character Cyril believes that his life fulfillment can be met through the Empire and specifically through Dedra. Cyril has managed to find a sense of direction, a direction which the Empire is able to provide, whether intentionally or unintentionally. What we see with Cyril is the possible beginning of someone who will become indoctrinated by the Empire, a possible fanatic in the making. Moving on from Season 1 of Andor, I expect that the more complex nature of Cyril's character will be explored. Given how things were left off, it's pretty clear that Dedra and Cyril will be engaged in some sort of a relationship, personal or otherwise. And now that Cyril has a closer way to interact with the Empire as an institution, we can sort of expect that his character will continue to descend further down the rabbit hole. The only question is, how far will he fall? Will he pull back once he realizes the depth of evil Imperials like Dedra are willing to engage with, or will he embrace it even further? I guess we'll just have to wait to find out. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I am the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.